Wow, Sam, that was a great episode. That was a great conversation with the wonderful Kristine Goebel.
Your sister, man.
She is my sister, and I'm super proud of the work that she does with her company, Accompany Suite. It was nice to dig into our shared experience growing up, as well as exploring how she approaches her work and approaches the people that she works with.
I mean, you obviously know her very well, but did you learn new things about her
Oh
through this
yeah,
episode?
I mean, yeah, I'm learning new things about her all the time. But yeah, in this episode, just like I know she's a passionate person, but to hear the way that she works with people and her focusing on the human element in a company is such a unique, what it sounds weird to say it, it's such a unique and um effective approach to working with a client.
Yeah, yeah. And myself being a business owner, I found it fascinating. I think anyone who is a business owner would want to hear it, or just anyone who's working anywhere where they're working with other people and there's challenges they want to overcome, or just want to up their game and make things better for everyone. I think anyone who lives, and a lot of people do, works in a situation like that, they're going to want to check this episode out.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Kristine Goebel.
Boom!
Sam,
Don Swenson, what's up, brother?
we've got a guest with us on the line from Florida.
Hello. Who is on the line?
Hello, this is Kristine Goebel.
Hi, Kristine
Swenson
Goebel. Hi. Also, my sister, Kristine Goebel.
Brother, how are you?
I'm well.
I'm just hoping that, we can fill this hour with embarrassing stories from Don's past.
Oh, no.
I got a few.
Oh, no.
No doubt.
Yeah, two can play in that game.
Oh.
True. That's fair.
All right, we'll talk in private.
So, Sam, this isn't just a family reunion kind of show here for me, but I wanted to bring my sister on, who has a creative background both in music and performance, but she also has this fantastic company called Accompany Suite, which she'll be able to explain it way better than I do. But she really works with companies to better understand the relationships, the internal relationships between, I guess, management and employees, and how to create a bit more harmonious culture within an industry.
Yeah, I spoke to her at your birthday party where I met her, and she could attest to me being fascinated. We were doing our own little podcast at the bar. I had so many questions.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about it ever since. It's a really cool profession, and we definitely want to dive deep into that. Do we want to start with the music stuff or go right into the...
Well, let's start, it's a little bit of a journey, I think I'd love to hear about how you got from Long Island to Florida to creating your own business.
Okay. So I'm going to take the short version, and you tell me if you want me to elaborate on anything in the middle.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so we obviously, Don pretty well. So we're a very musical, artsy, kumbaya type fam. So we were all very much saturated in music, theater, and just the arts in general. So growing up, like the lens in which we saw the world was always this beautiful, like even the tough times that we went through, we were always looking for like ways to laugh or like a different way to, perceive what might actually be going on, or making up some other dialogue in the background while we were people watching or something. And so it's always just kind of been who we are as people. It's very creative. And so the coolest thing for me was after I had graduated high school, I had gotten a scholarship to go to college for music education. And we had gone through a lot, and it was one of those situations. I was really not ready for college at the time. I was very much a musician, but just totally not in a state where I could give anything any valuable time. And so I dropped out after a semester, moved back in with my mom. I just had no.
Is this because you were putting all your passion towards music?
It was more, no, not necessarily. It was more about going through, our father had died a few years before that, and it just rocked me years later. When it had originally happened, I was just kind of getting through, making not the greatest choices, but still, did my part in school and was just submerged in the arts. And then when I went away to school, it was more just a situation where it's just I didn't feel connected to just about anything, honestly. And so it just seemed like a better idea to go home and sit on the couch and, do that than apply myself in school, because I missed my mom. I missed my brother, it's I didn't know what to do with myself. And so, I just sent out one resume, and I ended up getting a job with a Toyota dealership. And I continued down this spiral, path of not getting anywhere fast. But I had this really cool boss who was like, "Man, you're so smart." And I was like, "What?" I'm I just showed up because my mom said, if you don't get a job, you got to go. And I was like, okay, I better go get a job. And you hired me, so I don't really know what you're talking about. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go send you to work with Toyota Motors, and they're going to teach you all about systems, processes, and respect for humanity. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't have anything better going on.
Hey,
Sounds
I'm sorry, just for
idea.
me, can you repeat that? What were you going to learn?
Toyota's kind of approach, Toyota Motors, how they approach creating systems and processes in the workplace while having respect for humanity. So it was learning the two things at the same time and how they talk to each other.
Wow.
Yeah, right? 20 years old, and I'm totally whatever. That sounds fun. Not realizing the gravity and the actual opportunity that was in front of me. And in some ways, I think that it was such a better way to approach it, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any kind of preconceived notion of how it should be done, or, I just thought people were really fascinating. So, okay. And that was really the first introduction I had to this other part of me, because when you're a musician, I'm a super prayerful person, so I believe that I was called to conduct, and there's ways to do that in music, obviously, in theater, right, from an art perspective. But I also understand now, because of that background, how to do that in the workplace. And so if you really were to look at just how humans either create harmony or dissonance, or, it's just when the relationship just doesn't work. Well, I learned kind of the science behind all of that while I was with them, and how to engage people. So fast forward, I think about 7-8 years, all of our parents retired to Florida. And so my husband at the time, he's still my husband. My husband at the time, still the same husband. I was married. I was already married at the time, is what I meant. And so we had just had our first son, and we were like, so what do we do? Like, because we were raised with our grandparents very involved. And we were like, all right, well, let's move to Florida because, we'll see what happens. And so when I came here, I worked for a Toyota dealership here for a couple of years. And I was like, I'm kind of done with the car business. I'd like to try something else. And the general manager there was like, well, my son just opened up a CPA firm, and he's really good at taxes and accounting, but he doesn't know anything about operations and running a business and all that. Like, would you, like, he's like, what he said was, you can quit here, but you have to go work for him. So I was like, okay, right? Because I didn't really know, and it seemed like a fun opportunity. And it was really neat because getting coupled with somebody who's so dynamically different than you are it can be really incredible. And so that kind of launched this 14-year journey I was on. And in the middle of all of that, you take someone who's not an accountant. I'm obviously not a CPA. I can, probably prepare a good individual tax return with the best of them and, reconcile some bank statements, but that's about the extent of my accounting. But I knew operations and I knew people. And so I started to ask a lot of questions like, hey, can I come in the meetings and kind of better understand what's going on with them so we can help translate into their financials, or, how are we helping them make good decisions? We're telling them, we got to cut some payroll here, but like, did we go and talk to their staff? Do you think maybe their staff knows how to like increase revenue so we don't have to cut payroll? And we were young, right? Like a lot of us that were working there were young at the time. So it was kind of one of those, yeah, let's go talk to their people. And so we opened up a consulting company that I ran and was a partner in, and really started a lot of what I'm doing now then for those clients at the CPA firm. And we had a wealth advisory firm as well. And it's just been this like crazy, it's kind of how all this came to be.
I'd like to go back to the classes, if you don't mind. I'm just curious, what did you know at the time that you were taking them that they were having an immense impact on your life? Also, was it just the classes in general? Was there a teacher there that really moved you? Like, what was that experience like for you?
I had no clue. I just thought it was pretty exciting that I could drive to the headquarters in New Jersey and like hang out with the people that were taking care of Toyota Motors from a global perspective. So I thought that was cool. Because, it's like different people from different areas and you kind of collaborate and share what's going on. And I just had no idea for me, because if you've seen anything my brother has ever worked on, it is incredibly beautiful. Like, you look at any of his artwork, you listen to him sing, and you watch him dance, you watch him put on these, everything with Art Club, and it's just so incredibly visually pleasing. But if you put my visual artwork next to his, you would not know that we are related, because it does not look like that. And so when you come from a lot of talent like that, and I could play instruments and all of that kind of stuff, but I didn't quite get the same, like, I don't even have the same amazing sense of humor that he has, right? Like, I'm kind of dry.
That's certainly true. Yeah.
A little rigid. But I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know, And so there was a guy there. His name was Bob. And the reason I remember his name being Bob is because that was our dad's name, too. I can't tell you for the life of me his last name. But I do remember, and I still actually have the letter in my safe. He wrote me a letter when I had finished time with them at Toyota. And it was like a good reference letter or whatever, but I'll never forget how proud he was of the contribution that I had made. And I started really paying attention to, bosses. And my boss at the dealership that I worked at the time saw something in me I had no idea existed. I wanted to do good work, and I wanted to contribute to the workplace, but I had no idea that he saw so many years ahead. He just saw this talent that I would have never been able to see. And it was interesting because this guy, Bob, at Toyota Motors saw it too. I started to believe that I actually had something really valuable to bring back. And I was equipped with these really cool questions to ask and all of that. So no, I had no idea at the time what was happening because I was so in it. I had no vision or, perception or purpose really of like how it was going to impact my life long term. I had no clue.
you got
Now it's it's first of all, like, you play like 900 instruments and sing like a nightingale, so like let's
But does she have the
that.
visually pleasing dance moves that you have?
No, she does not. She definitely does not. No, real quick, funny story.
Oh,
so
God.
once I was cast as what's her name in 42nd Street?
Dorothy Gale?
Okay.
No, that's from Wizard of Oz. Was it Peggy Sawyer?
Peggy Sawyer.
Yeah.
Funny story. I got cast as Peggy Sawyer because I could sing, and it was told to the director that I could dance, and it was a big fat lie. And so she's supposed to be this expert tap dancer, and I would like literally do like spins on the stage just trying to get by. And I got by because I could sing, but I could not dance and had no business getting that role. But all good things, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So like, when and why did you decide to take the break from what you were doing at the CPA firm, and what was that like?
That's a loaded question, especially because you know what happened during that time.
Oh, but I don't.
Yeah, that's true, Sam.
That's true.
That's
why Sam comes along to these things.
To get the dirt.
The reality was I was in a career. I made partner in a CPA firm with, at the time, only a high school diploma. I had gone back to school, which I've since graduated. I have a degree in behavioral science and business, and which I got in my 40s. But it's just really, this thing happened where I looked around and I saw a bunch of people. There was about 30 of us at the time, and I was so proud of them. And so I was making good money, kind of reached the height of, I couldn't grow, there was no other, position to achieve in the firm. And I was kind of coming out of my skin creatively. And so I kept hearing myself say things like, I feel like all my creativity just got snuffed out and I don't know where it went. I feel like I'm just like on a treadmill. And it was crazy because you're surrounded by people you love. Everyone gets along great. I still am close with all of them. If they ever need anything, like, they still call me, right? I still work with them, quote unquote.
You just didn't feel fulfilled.
I didn't, because there was so much more to be done. And I felt like this call of like, you do not go and you do not give up everything for this, you are going to miss the greatest thing that will ever happen in your life. Now, of course, being a mom and a wife is a great thing, but this is Kristine, the individual.
Sure.
That I had something really important to make sure that I could tell as many people as possible so that they don't go through life thinking it has to be one way when it's entirely possible for the workplace to be a healthy place that you love going to and you're so excited to go to bed Sunday night because Monday morning you get to get up and go to work with these really cool people.
Yeah, and tying those
and
two
do
things
something.
just saying because I was thinking about this earlier today. Some people feel like they're being selfish if they're spending extra time to do things like that. You're on a mission and you want to feel that fulfillment. I think it works both ways. That if mom is getting her fulfillment and showing her kids what she's doing in her life, I think that transfers over to also being a great parent and great mentor to the little one when they see you doing such great things.
I totally agree with you. It changed the dynamics of our entire household, and it's really watching them now because they're all my kids are now adults. It's cool to watch them try things that are uncomfortable or hard or totally outside of their comfort zone, and that they look at it and they are inspired by things my husband and I have done in the last 5 years, which is it's so bizarre. It's so cool, but
yeah,
and well, that's like, that had to be super scary because that's not necessarily the messaging you got growing up, was to like fulfill your dreams, kind of.
So were your folks just adamant about you guys getting a good 9 to 5 and making sure all the bills are paid? And
oh yeah, they had the job that they had. I think our dad worked like 3 jobs at any point in time, 2 that were consistent.
I'm sorry, I'm just surprised with the way you guys talk about your upbringing being very kumbaya and free-spirited, almost, it sounds like, and creativity being a big part of your childhood. I would have thought following your dreams kind of goes along with that narrative.
I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Like we can both answer this question. Like I look at it more like our family, crazy talented people. A lot of them work their job. Play a little bit on the side, make their models, have their hobbies, draw their pictures and stuff like that. But for the most part,
not mixing business with pleasure.
Well, it's kind of like you get your job, you work your job, you retire, you work for this family dynamic. And I think somewhere in there, you become just part of the person that you could be. Like I remember, and I don't know if you remember this, Chrissy, but I remember guys from Dad's work coming to the funeral and telling us how funny he was. And I'm like, what? Because we didn't really necessarily see that part because he got up, he left the house between 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and come home like 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Oh.
Yeah.
He was always there to drive us to places and to do band work. But man, working was what he did, I think there was 2 weeks a year that he'd go camping. And that was kind of his.
Were you guys able to develop a healthy relationship where you can go to him for, advice? And
we were pretty young. Teenage Don didn't get along great with his dad, so it's I was.
Teenage Chrissy did.
Yeah. And I think it was I got along really good with my mom and my sister, not as much.
Yeah.
So I think we each had a person to turn to, but it wasn't necessarily,
I gotcha.
But
it's very normal.
Yeah. Inside of that, there was a lot of kumbaya because even when things were like Kristine was saying, were rough, we still had there was still laughing. It's a lot of gallows humor in the family. So, something bad would happen and you make a joke out of it, you know.
Gallows humor.
Yeah, so it's like to use a joke
You're so
from
fancy.
My dad's funeral, okay? Um
This is a bathroom joke.
No, well, that was one. But
There's a lot of jokes.
but yeah, there was a couple of jokes. I that's how I deal with things. Like I'd say he looked like he was sleeping, but you know he's not snoring.
Okay.
Like somebody asked me where the bathrooms were, and I said behind the casket. And they turned to see my dad's dead body, and then because I don't know, because I was 17 and
You're
just
a sick man.
didn't know what the hell to do with myself. But like I think like this is a little bit of a digression, but to bring us back towards Kristine's story is I think that was a pretty courageous move that you took, and it looks like that seeing people who were really good at their jobs, people who were young and willing to try new things and get those first steps was something that has translated into the way you run your own company.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that gave me that it's really okay to go was they were ready and were totally okay if I wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Like they were so equipped, so smart, so talented that when it was time and I knew and, Chris knew that like this was actually going to happen and we were going to, walk away and really start Accompany Suite and put all our focus on that. It was like the most peaceful feeling, even though it was scary and it was a lot of things. But I was sure because I was leaving it in the best possible hands. So it wasn't like I walked away from something and, it fell apart. It was, I walked away from something and left it in great hands. And that's a really cool thing. And so everything at Accompany Suite, like the whole purpose of it is teach people every single thing I know and keep learning, right? Because when I'm teaching, I'm learning so much from the people in the room. I learn about different perspectives or different cultures or countries or, I'm learning all sorts of things. So just as much as I'm sharing everything I'm learning or that I have learned, I keep learning. And so there's just always more to share. And so I try to tell all these people that are coming through for leadership and professional development, there should be no fear in teaching people what you know, because there's always more to learn and there's always more things to grow into. And when you share everything you know and you don't hold it in, like trying to hoard your knowledge, like people, they want to be around you more. And you know what I mean? And like that access, that level of trust of like, I want you to take everything I'm teaching you and run with it. And I want you to be way better at it than I ever could. And I think it's just like, it's the coolest thing to watch people grow past or grow into something, totally cool. And then you had some small part in helping ignite some of that talent,
Can you give an example, maybe an early example of like a company that you worked with that was maybe in trouble a little bit that you were able to help out and how you did that?
Yeah. One comes to mind. So, obviously keeping things as
Sure.
confidential as possible, but
Sure.
This one particular company, we're going through like a brand change and culture was really unhealthy. Just like a lot of gossip, people calling out sick and I don't think they were really sick, stuff like that. And there really wasn't a ton of accountability either. And so they called me up and they were like, hey, we've got a brand change, and, we heard you're pretty good at helping create a strategy. Like, would you come in and work with us for a little bit? So I was like, sure. So go in, and really what was happening inside is there was a lot of double doing of work. There was a lot of just not clear understanding of the roles and responsibilities of every person and kind of how that all works. And because of that, it was causing this discord culturally. So, this person would think that this other person should be doing something, but it really wasn't on that person's. It was this third person that was supposed to be doing it.
Jeez.
And because there was so much lack of clarity, you couldn't possibly hold anybody accountable because it just wasn't making sense. Wasn't even making sense to me. But if you picture yourself, so I had the advantage of objectivity because I was looking at everything from kind of over it. So if you picture an orchestra and you're the conductor, you know exactly which instrument is out of tune. You know exactly who's off slightly, as far as the tempo goes. You know all of these things, and you can pinpoint it because your ear is trained to do that. Well, it's kind of the same thing, right? So you go in and you have enough conversation with people, you start to put the puzzle together. It kind of looks like the Matrix in your brain. And then all of a sudden, it's you can create the harmony in your head. And then all of a sudden, you have these pathways to make it happen. And so I worked with them for 2 years.
Wow.
I still work with them quarterly now just to keep things moving forward. But I worked with them every week for 2 years. And it was the craziest thing because, and this is a special situation. I'm not saying this is the result all the time, but revenue went up 40% in 2 years.
Wow, that's significant.
No turnover, right? The culture was killer. I mean, killer in a good way. They appreciated each other. They understood the mission of the organization, the core values. That was really it. It's once we defined the core values and we were this is these 5 things, this is how you treat each other every day. And every decision you have to make, you run it through these 5 words and these definitions. And if you make a decision based on this criteria, we're going to support your decision completely, whether it's right or wrong. We're going to support you.
So every mission that you get hired for, I'm assuming it is, they all have different situations and issues they have to work out. What's the preparation for this like? Do you speak to the boss and get the rundown of all the problems? Do you just kind of find them out as you're doing class 1? How does it work?
So it could go a couple of different ways. So what we've created, which is really, it's turned out to be phenomenal. We have this introductory leadership or professional development series. And so it's 6 sessions over the course of 16 months. But there's this little bit of homework that's happening in between each session, right? And so the only thing I ask from the beginning to the owner or the general manager or CEO, whoever's HR manager, whoever's contacted us is, what is the one thing that you want to try to accomplish with this group of people in the next 12 months? And so it could be anything from, I want them to trust each other. And it's a big ask, get them to trust each other. It could be create systems for hiring, onboarding, and retention for our employees. It could be help us develop a strategy, right? So I'm just kind of listening to whatever it is, but it's very rare that what they give me in the beginning is the actual root cause of the issues in the workplace. And I know that, and they know that, and they can only tell me all these symptoms.
Yeah.
And so throughout what we're teaching, we are actually teaching these interpersonal skills, and they build trust amongst themselves through the programs that I've developed. And these foundational lessons in human communication, the one thing I tell whoever's at the top that hired us is, Your people already know all the answers. I'm just going to help them find them. And that's what we do, is we understand human beings so well that we are able to extract what's actually causing the breakdowns internally. And then we work with them just to keep it going, you know? And so it requires a lot of accountability. So we are, you know, checking in and seeing how things are moving forward. And, you know, we have the hard conversations when we need to, because I don't care who you are, myself included. You know, if I set a goal for myself and I start to achieve it, sometimes I like backtrack a little bit, you know, it's like I'm not eating sugar. And then all of a sudden I'll have a cookie, and then I have a box of cookies. You know what I mean? Like,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody goes through it. So there's always this ebb and flow, and we just help keep things on the healthy side. Because if we can create healthy workplaces, we have healthier families, right? If you go home at night and you have the energy to actually sit down and read a book with your kid, that's crazy, right? Like I would get through 2 pages of a book with my kids, and then I'd be asleep, and they're like, you know, I'm getting whaled in the head with the book because the kids are, you know, they're like, wake up, read the book. But, you know, it's like, it makes such a difference when you leave work energized. And if you don't know what it is that gives you energy, it's not the same thing, doesn't give everybody the same amount of energy, right? Like if I talk to a room full of people all day, I know that day I'm going to go home and I'm going to be very tired. But guess what? My entire family is already aware that I'm going. I have a big speaking engagement. I'm going to take care of this. I'm probably going to be pretty tired. So my husband already is like volunteering to cook dinner. You know, it's like our whole life has changed because of the awareness we all have on what brings us energy and what drains our energy. And so we keep that in balance. We keep our satisfaction levels of all these areas of our life in balance. It's not work-life balance. That's a myth. I don't know who made that phrase, but they actually created something that causes this like conflict in your brain. And so when we start talking about people that are constantly just, I want work-life balance, I want work-life balance, I'm like, your life is your life, and work is a part of that. You're not trying to balance work in your life because you'll never be satisfied. Never. And so like it's the most foundational things about being a human being, but you got to be doing things that bring you joy and that spark your energy and that you really feel like you're contributing. And it's not it's not fake. It's a real thing, and you can make good money doing it. And oftentimes it's not like a lot of people have to like quit a job and then go get a new job to find that kind of fulfillment. You just need to look for the job that checks 80% of those boxes that bring you joy and are fulfilling, and you're able to actually take what you love and the things that drive you and apply them to the job that you currently have. As long as you got a job that covers a lot of those things. If you're working outside of your like energy zone the entire time, of course you're not going to like it. Of course you're going to think it's the worst job and that it's like soul crushing, you know?
Damn, Kristine, dropping wisdom. Some good stuff. Hey, so when do people call you for your services? Is it always as things are falling apart? Did people ever just want to bring you in just to keep things flowing and upbeat? Like when do people call you?
Yeah, isn't that funny? It's actually more often than not, it's people that have a really good culture and they want it to be even better. So it's a lot of times like, yes, do we get the stress calls? Absolutely. Do we have the people that hire us because they're like, please fix it. It's a mess. I don't know what to do. I just want people to want to come here and work, and we want to take good care of them, but we don't know where to start. And, maybe it's just gone a little too long without it being like the issues being addressed. But for the most part, it's people who are very serious about investing in the people that work for them, knowing that their talent will be the thing that, once we can really like get them working well together, like all their technical skills are going to speak for themselves. It's those interpersonal skills that are going to take a company, like the book, Good to Great, right? It's like a lot of companies are really good, but are they great? Do they have the kind of leadership that is just more in a, mentorship and coaching and moving people forward? And, the thought that everyone here is a leader at what they do, and then good leadership, we know when it's time to, stand in the front, and we know when it's time to stand in the back. You just know those things. So it's usually that they want to take it to the next level, and they want to provide information to their staff that is going to help them navigate the unexpected human parts of having to work, because working with people isn't easy for anybody. I don't care who you are. If you have a job and you work with people, it's hard. Or if you have customers, it's hard.
So what if, do you ever get a phone call? So I imagine no matter what you do with your workshops, if there is a boss or a manager who just, I don't know, for lack of a better word, just not a great person, it doesn't have the values that match with what you're trying to bring forward. Does that ever happen? And do you ever have a conversation with one of those bosses? Like, this won't work unless you change, or do you ever turn people down because of that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's not for everybody. And so there does come a point where there are some companies that, even though I can see more potential for them to continue to grow and learn and develop, them just trying to maintain a healthier place than they were in before we came in, that's about all they can handle for a period of time. So we have some clients that have taken, like a year break where they work really hard, and we'll check in periodically, but they work hard to maintain how far they'd come. And then they get used to that. And then once that becomes second nature, then they'll move on and continue growing in other ways. We have had situations where we've had to just, end a relationship or, a few. And that happens. And it's about, if you're going to hire us and make an investment in your company, it's got to be good both ways. I mean, there are so many options for professional development, leadership development, excuse me, all sorts of workshop options. There's so much. If you want to do team building and you just want a company to come in and get everybody to laugh and loosen everything up, you have, the sky's the limit. And so sometimes we will recommend, going other places because it's just a better fit for them. But we're more interested in people that are looking for permanent, long-term change. And so that's they know that when we're, having a discovery call, we have that conversation. So.
It sounds like you're super passionate about this. That's very clear. And I'm just curious, those mentors, those teachers you had in the past, you said, or your bosses, they said, they saw something special in you and gave you opportunities because of that. And I'm just curious, like, what would you say you bring to the table when it comes to doing these kind of workshops? Well, what is it that you are, if you don't mind saying, what are you really good at? What are your specialties?
A hard question for anybody to answer, but I would say there's this thing when you really love people, you are able to see past things that are kind of on that surface level. And so I would say the thing that we bring the best is the ability to help somebody see for themselves what we see in them. And a lot of people we all have a belief and a mindset sometimes that is harsh. We're all really hard on ourselves. We all have negative talk tracks, things like that. And so when we're really good at helping people uncover what that sounds like so they can actually fight it, so that they can actually tell it, no, I don't want to think that. That's not true. Or helping them discover when they're actually in a place of judgment or assumption or resentment, and help them move toward understanding and valuing and respecting and things of that nature so they can build trust with other people. And so foundationally, I think that if you were to ask me the one thing I have that's a gift, I would say that I can smell through BS pretty quick too. So, I thought for years when I first went back to school, Sam, I thought I'm going to be a mental health counselor and I'm going to work with all the kids that parents died and I'm going to be in the thick of it. And right. Like I thought, I was like, oh, it's going to be so fun. So, yeah. So anyway, long story short, that was not it. And there's one story I think that will help. I was finishing up the degree and I was taking a social work class, and it was COVID, was really just right when I graduated was when COVID was just kind of coming in. And I learned about some legal things that once I became a mental health counselor, there was kind of this clear boundary I was going to have to set up between myself and other people. And it's not that I'm not professional and that I don't have boundaries and all that kind of stuff. But there was one conversation I had with a professional mental health counselor who was also a social worker. And they were sharing a story about, it was a woman in her 90s, and they were working inside of this nursing home. And they had just locked it down, and the woman couldn't have access to her family. And she got sick really fast. And she didn't have COVID. She was just old, in her 90s. Yeah. And the mental health counselor went in to spend a little bit of time with her. And she said, can I get you anything? Can I do anything for you? And the woman looked at her and she said, I'd really like a hug. Oh. And they had to decline the hug.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. I was like, nope. Not because there aren't people there are people made for those jobs. And I understand the circumstances were horrible. I get that. Like, what an impossible situation to put somebody in. But I had decided in that moment I did not want to be legally bound from hugging another human being because of my licensing. So I chose this very specifically because, and each state is different, and right, there's so much to it. But I chose this because I realized quickly the gifting was in the workplace. And that in order for me to get to the people that I knew I could help, I needed to be doing it in the workplace, not in a therapeutic office or, anything like that. And so it comes with the heart of a mental health counselor, yet without that skill set. So I'm more systems focused and human relationships focused, more in that behavioral science space. That's where I shine, as opposed to, that real deep, helping people work through traumas. I work with a lot of mental health counselors now. We're great referral partners. We have a lot of partnerships with mental health counselors because a lot of people really need that, and that's not what we do. And so we let those experts handle that while we handle what's going on in their workplace.
What does the future look like for Accompany Suite and for you? Like, where do you picture this, like, next steps?
Yeah, so we are in the process right now of creating courses. We are working so hard at creating really concise materials so that you don't have to sift through, a 300-page book and hopefully get a nugget or two. everything that we're creating, we're wanting you to get it in smaller clips. And so we've got courses that are being developed in the background. We've got long-term series where we're actually looking for long-term, more comprehensive learning environments. But the goal really is to restore workplaces and relationships. Because if we have those healthy workplaces, we have healthy families, we have healthy communities. And so we just want to do our part in helping humans know how to communicate with other human beings. And so there's just so much to be done, and there's so many workplaces to get to.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I'm so grateful.
I'm
so
really
grateful.
I'm really curious what it looks like. Like in my head, I'm envisioning you guys in some kind of conference room holding hands and doing the knots exercise. And I could be totally off with that. What does a day in the life look like when you're in the heart of fixing one of these businesses?
Yeah, well, I can't say that we don't play games, because we do. There might be Legos involved periodically.
Ooh,
and, you know,
I want to come.
we do a lot of fun things. But it's not always the right thing. And so that's kind of part of the beauty of it, is you get to know the team a little bit better, and you know which ones want to like cut up and laugh while they're learning. Because we know that if they're laughing, they are learning. There's like, you're taking in more oxygen. You're actually comprehending the information more when you're in a state of laughter. And so we have to discover who they are so that we know how to get them to a place of laughter without them feeling foolish or anything like that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of interactive games and things of that nature, but it's coupled with a real serious, like, what are the actual issues you're dealing with right now? And how can we help move it forward? So one of the exercises we do is we have people take a moment. They each get a little piece of paper, and they have to write down the name of the person that frustrates them the most in the workplace. And it's funny because when they're like, oh yeah, you know, it's like the pen goes to the paper. They know exactly what name they want to write or whatever. Yeah. And then we're like, okay. And so now I want you to think of one thing that is great about them. And there's always one thing. There's always one thing that's great about that other person. And then we ask them to take out their phones and send them a text or an email or something complimenting them on the thing that is so great about them. And they've just taken the first step to mending that relationship. Wow. And we're not looking for bogus things. We're not looking for, look, if you've got nothing nice, I've not had a situation yet where anybody really couldn't think of something. And it does need to come from an authentic and you know, a real place.
Yeah.
But that first step is really hard because it's hard to see past the thing that they did or that they do that bothers us. And so we just help them move forward in that. That relationships are never great. They're never perfect. They're always messy. You know, Donna and I talk about hard stuff all the time because it's such a trusted relationship. And even though we have a lot of differing views on a lot of things, we go to each other because I'm like, I want to better understand this. Like, can you give me another perspective that maybe I haven't thought of? And so that's the challenge, right? Is the finding people that are open-minded enough to ask a question about something they really are ignorant on, they really don't understand, and then having the patience to listen to someone's answer, even if it is vastly different than your beliefs or, you know, whatever your opinion is. And when we can get there, that's the good stuff. And we do it every day.
And so is the entire thing just take place in the one room and then send them off, or do you follow them around the workplace and see where the issues are? Or do you speak to them individually after the meeting? How does that work?
So a lot of times if we're really involved with them, we have them get off site when we're doing the actual workshops and programs. So when we're teaching and we're doing a deep dive on some of these interpersonal skills or relationship things, we're off site. what we do, though, in between sessions with a lot of clients is we come in and we coach. And so a lot of it's done virtually. But at some point in time, we do actually take a tour of every workplace. And the reason is you cannot replace watching people interact with each other. And so often in the very beginning of the relationship, it doesn't matter who, anybody could give us a tour, but I want to actually see people working and see what they're doing and ask them questions and engage with them, because it tells me so much. It helps me fast track, how are we going to approach the situation, and, how engaged or disengaged are they, and all of that. So, but a lot of it's done virtually. The workshops often are done offsite or virtually. But it's really just that trusted relationship. Like, we're the phone a friend. Mm-hmm. We're the person you call when you're like, I have to go and talk with Jimmy, and I know he's going to be really mad and he's going to have to listen to me. How do I set the conversation up where he's actually going to want to listen and be engaged in the conversation? How do I do that? Mm-hmm. And so those are the things they call us about in between the sessions, and we help with that. And so we'll kind of pre-brief it with them. They go and do it, and then we debrief with them. How well did it go? What do you think could have gone better? How perceptive, what were they when you were sharing this certain situation or whatever? And so we're just helping them navigate the relationship so that they can, thrive in their workplace and enjoy the people they're doing it with.
I got a question for you. If somebody's listening to this podcast right now and they're struggling with their workforce, or maybe they're struggling with talking to maybe their boss about something, what would be a good piece of advice that you'd give them?
Start asking questions and really listen to the answers you're getting. So we're all, a lot of times when we're frustrated, we're coming at it from, I would probably be asking questions to uncover this, but oftentimes we want to be heard and we want to get our point across. And the best way to get your point across is when you find out what somebody else's point is first. Mm. Right? So it's like, if I take a vested interest in you, you're going to take a vested interest in me. It's kind of like match and mirror body language, like if you come to me and your arms are crossed, and then I match it and I cross my arms, and then I slowly put my arms down, you're going to slowly put your arms down. So I'm disarming you in the interaction. It's the same exact thing. It's like if I really am wanting someone's attention and wanting to be heard and listened to, I will go to them first and try to gain some understanding of their perspective about a situation before I share my own, unless it's an emergency, obviously, but oftentimes it's really not an emergency.
You haven't been doing this for super long, but it sounds like you've also been super active, and I'm curious. So over these last few years, is there a business, a moment, a person? Is there one thing that you could look back on and think like, so far in everything I've done, that's my biggest accomplishment on this venture. This is the thing I'm most proud of.
Honestly, I think the thing I'm the most proud of is learning how to believe that I can.
Oh, so it's internal.
I think so. It's really when you have, everyone's got something that they're crazy good at. And the challenge is getting them to be okay with criticism, or, maybe people just won't dig it. And that's really hard when you love something so much and you're so these people that go on American Idol, I'm like, oh my gosh, because they're opening themselves up to millions of people that are going to watch, and there's a good portion of them that are going to think you aren't good, even if you're great. And so I think the thing I'm the most proud of is I am constantly putting myself in a situation that I'm uncomfortable in. And it took a long time to be okay with that. And so I would say, yeah, like I would say it's definitely an internal thing. I mean, I'm so proud of all of our clients because we're watching people who didn't want to be in a room with each other, like be so excited to get there and get to work, because we get to work, you know, like we're not wasting any time. We start on time, we end on time. They know exactly what to expect when they get there, and they're doing a lot of it. And so I'm just proud of the work that people are putting in, because they actually want to achieve things. People like being held. It's like with kids, you know, they like discipline. It's okay for you to say this is safe and this is not safe. You know, that's our job. And so when we lead people, it's the same thing. You got to just let them know, like, what is good and right in relationships and what's unhealthy, what doesn't lead to the right outcome. And it's okay to tell them that it's not going well. It's also okay for people to say to me, you know, hey, I didn't like that exercise. You know, when you do this with the next group, can we not do that part of it? Because I don't think that resonates well with us. Like, gosh, I want to hear that. I've heard that before. We work with some colleges, and you know, the further away I am from their age, the more I have to call in people closer to their age to help me navigate it.
Yeah.
But that's just wisdom.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of all of them. But yeah, I would say the biggest thing is a personal.
And I love what you said, because I can't tell you how many times over my profession, you know, I've had to really give a kid some discipline, you know, and it, sure enough, when you're hard on someone like that, but you do it with love, 9 times out of 10, they end up coming up to me 15 minutes later, wanting to show me something or tell me about a goal they scored or something. And then they're hanging out. I tell it to my counselors all the time. You're not being mean if you're disciplining.
Yeah.
Just do it, you know, from a good place.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Don, I have one last question. Did you have anything else? Because I think mine would be a little bookend to this.
Just if people wanted to find out more about Accompany Suite and what you folks do over there, where would be a good place for them to jump on?
Yeah, well, our website is chock full of freebies. So accompanysuite.com, ACCOMPANYSUITE.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel with different little mini lessons and stuff. So we put a lot of free content out there for people. So there's never an issue. You know, if somebody's got a little budget, there's plenty of materials out there that they can get some of this foundational teaching for free.
Nice.
And like I was saying, to bookend this episode, I have one final question, and that is, after all the things you've been through and now you are here, do you now in life feel fulfilled?
I feel so satisfied with every area of my life. And as long as I can continue to be seeking that type of satisfaction, that will change as I age, and as circumstances change, I absolutely feel fulfilled. And I, you know, it's a journey. And the sooner you start realizing that every day of your life is just another step forward in this journey, that you stop trying to reach this like final destination and just start enjoying the ride. And so, yeah, I find that part fulfilling. I'm not in this race to achieve this one great big thing, because every day I get to achieve something or get to experience something that was unexpected every single day. So yeah, that's super fulfilling.
You hear that, people? Enjoy the ride. Don, you got to enjoy the ride, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, Kristine.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, and yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks everybody for listening.
All right, see ya.